7 knockouts, 5 submissions, 7 decisions. Is Randy Brown any good? Randy Rudeboy Brown is a welterweight with a lot of finesse and flair. And I hate to say it, but it's typically the most fun-looking styles that never reach the top of the sport, because it's the gritty and the ugly that actually produces the best results. This isn't always true, but ask yourself, when was the last champion we had that talked trash in the cage and busted out into emotes and dance moves? But Randy Brown is a super fun, flow-state striker who fights with a lot of swagger. Long-ranging punches, kicks to the face, and an underrated jiu-jitsu game. Sporting a big height and reach advantage on nearly every opponent, Brown gets away with a lot on the feet and takes a ton of risk with his style. But it's fun as hell, so I'm not complaining. But we can learn a lot about taller fighters and how they operate by studying him. He's been a staple of the welterweight top 20, top 30 since I've been watching the sport, and he's done his job and then some at entertaining us. So let's figure out this fighter and take a look at the official stats, fighting style, and UFC career to find out the truth about Rudeboy. Randy Brown, a tall striker with swagger and back pocket BJJ if things go south. Striking accuracy 47%, strikes landed per minute 4.3, strikes absorbed per minute 3.2. This is a nice number, but Brown would probably prefer it even lower, as his stand-up is centered around evasion and constant movement. Takedown average 0.8, submission average 0.5, takedown accuracy 39%, strike defense 54%, takedown defense 73%. Brown has always been difficult to bring to the ground and is very good at reversing position or threatening with chokes. Knockdown average 0.3, average fight time 10 minutes 41 seconds. And this is how Randy Brown is most likely to win a fight. By settling into his range and sniping his opponent with a hard-to-read jab and crazy long kicks. Rudeboy plays his game of hit and not get hit, almost always against the shorter man. But people pack power in the welterweight division, and he's been put on notice multiple times before. Nevertheless, foes with subpar defense will be knocked out, and those who let him get his grappling going will be in for a rude awakening once he gets their back. Strengths are great hands, great flow state, and sneaky BJJ chokes. Weaknesses, weak in the pocket, and a suspect chin. Rudeboy plays at a long range and picks his spots accordingly. He's experienced in avoiding the pocket and using his weapons only for when the moment calls for it. And his volume is there. In his 20 UFC fights, he's only been outstruck twice by Vicente Luque and Bilal Muhammad. Cream of the crop. 170 royalty, you could even say. He's had his ups and downs in the cage, and we've got to see his game evolve with time. Cemented in the company for as long as he has, Brown has always been that guy right at the edge of the top 15. And he's stayed this unranked contender because, simply put, he has gaps in his defense that could be capitalized on. He responds horribly to being hit. Rudeboy has an enormous amount of skill, but is just lacking that classic meathead toughness that you need a healthy dose of. It seems like the fighters that really pride themselves on evading strikes as opposed to blocking and rolling with shots respond a lot worse when finally one does sneak through. It's like they aren't conditioned enough to the impact, and it really shocks their system. Best performance, his one-arm rear naked choke over Cowboy Oliveira. It's kind of laughable to be submitted with one arm, but when you have really lanky ones, I guess situations like this are possible. These two had some bad blood, and Brown dropped him with a mean straight left and then pounced on the back. He won the fight flawlessly by one-arm rear naked choke, and I'd be curious to see how many of these have been pulled off in the UFC. Most fun, his flashy scrap with Chaos Williams. This was an excellent fight, overshadowed by casual robbery talk, and you should absolutely go give it a watch. Both guys started fast, and Randy found his flow state early in the fight, emoting, landing slick combos, and darting around the cage with finesse. Chaos kept it competitive, but was slightly outvolumed, and it went to a close split decision. Notable wins, Muslim Salikov. Now, against Salikov, he landed a tasty KO with a 1-2. Salikov never got out of first gear in this fight and paid for it dearly. And Alessio Zaleski dos Santos tried to grapple him, but just couldn't control him. Rudeboy is a hard guy to grapple with the long legs and the BJJ background, and can reverse position on most people. He had a field day at range in this fight. The Chaos Williams fight, very entertaining. Both guys are playing a dangerous game here, and Brown brings out a lot of swagger and confidence, and it just made for a really fun fight. He beat Chaos by split decision, but I do think he was the rightful victor in this one, even though he was flash knocked down in the fight. Randy Brown has some interesting losses, and they are by no means against low-level opposition. Bilal Muhammad, the current champion, and quite possibly the greatest tank spec since GSP, he stayed safe at range and just bulldozed through Brown, checking his wrestling like he does with most of his victims. Now, JDM tucked deep into his shell to stay safe at range, and once he got Brown trapped against the cage, he crashed the pocket with a combo. What baffles me about this is that it wasn't even that hard of a punch, and Brown just loses all equilibrium and gets finished shortly thereafter. Jack showed that close-range boxing can be enough to finish Rudeboy once you crash that pocket, and that he needs the fight to take place at a long range to find his flow. The Vicente Luque loss, this was the first time Brown had been brutally finished. He ate that knee in the clinch, followed by 3 massive punches to his unconscious body. He took a long time to recover and hasn't showcased a great chin since, in all honesty. Luque is another guy who took a bad KO loss to Jeff Neal and suffered long-term damage, like this sport isn't a joke or a game at all. One bad moment in a fight and your career can begin its downward spiral. Brown was building up a win streak last year, but was held up against the fence by Brian Battle, and the fight was so shit, I can't even find photos of it on Google. Brown is set to face Nicholas Dalby, another very credentialed welterweight veteran. I really like this fight because these guys aren't getting any younger, and I'd love to see one of them crack the rankings before it's all said and done for either of them. And I wanted to share with you guys my insights on Randy's skill set, mainly because he has lost both to Bilal Muhammad and Jack Della Maddalena, who will be competing against each other for the championship very soon. Bilal played it safe and went to the ground, and JDM cut off the cage, closed the pocket, and secured a knockdown and a submission win. Randy Brown's a unique fighter, and I really like unique fighters. I don't like the cookie cutter, jab, hit the grappling, hit the wrestling, the takedown. The sport needs guys like this, whose games aren't necessarily perfect, but they have their own style going for them. Their fight style has a personality, you could say. Randy's focus is mostly the boxing, but he is bouncy like a karate fighter, and while he does make some mistakes in the defense, he is very credentialed, very experienced, and he can beat you on the feet or on the ground. Randy Brown is C tier. As always, thank you for watching, and drop your favorite Rudeboy moment down below. MMA makes no fucking sense, but I'm out here trying to put it all together. Until next time.